your destination.
I'm Emily Lutzker.
And I'm Anna Kamasia. Your tax-deductible donation makes this podcast possible. Please support us at internationalarrivals.org.
Please take a moment to hit the like button, rate us, and review the show. It makes a big difference in helping us reach more listeners. Today, International Arrivals speaks with Studio Lenca, an artist who originates from El Salvador, crossed the border into America with his mother, and now lives in England. Known for his brightly colored figurative painting, in which the figures wear a wide-brimmed hat, his work considers questions of identity and belonging.
Welcome, Jose. We're so happy that we were able to catch you while you were here in New York. How's it going?
It's going good. I'm really excited to be in New York City. The last time I was here was working with the Parish Museum, and before that, it was a summer at the Alvin Ailey School a long time ago.
Oh, wow. That was part of your dance
Training.
history and training?
Yes, yeah.
And do you still dance?
I dance in my studio, and I dance on the canvas.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
Can we start by asking you, why Studio Lenca?
Yes. I wanted to play with my identity as an artist. The word studio decentralizes me and a particular mode of practice. I can paint, I can dance, I can make videos and work in communities. My practice is about creating spaces for experimentation. Lenca refers to the indigenous people from Southwest Honduras and Eastern El Salvador, where I'm from. I think by honoring this name and recovering a nativo or native identity, I'm able to disrupt oppressive powers and take up space. Sometimes I imagine my identity as putting together very limited pieces of a stolen puzzle, while others around me perpetuate the erasure of my community and those with my story.
Excellent. I love that. I was just thinking about honoring the indigenous people, and I don't know if you've gotten to go to any events in New York yet since you've been here. And it's something in the last couple of years that's become really prevalent, that whenever there's an event in New York, they honor the indigenous people that were here before us. Have you witnessed that? And
I haven't witnessed that in New York, but I've witnessed that in San Francisco. So as the plane was landing in San Francisco, they said, just to remind you, this is the indigenous land of the people that were there.
Yeah.
And in Canada, it's pretty prominent. We always have a thank you or a gratitude to the Indigenous people and the Indigenous population, and a land acknowledgement.
Yes.
For most events, art and otherwise.
Yeah. So from Indigenous to all kinds of, unrest in El Salvador. The Civil War ravaged El Salvador from 1979 to 1992. And I heard you say in another interview that you were among the first wave of child immigrants that fled due to the violence there. Can you tell us what you remember about the circumstances that led you and your mother to leave?
Well, I was very young, so I don't remember. But my mother said, I was hiding underneath the bed because of gunshots. Our family members were being taken to become child soldiers. I was born in a house with a dirt floor and walls made out of corrugated iron. So we were poor by sort of Salvadoran standards. And the countryside where we were got sort of attacked heavily. And in 1989, it's considered the toughest year of the Salvadoran Civil War because of the violence. And that's the year that we left.
And when I was talking to you earlier, you talked about a journey to Mexico City, I think it was, where you went with your mother first?
Yes.
Is that right?
That's right. So we went through Guatemala, Honduras, to Mexico City. And in Mexico City, we got stuck because we ran out of money. And a lot of people, that happens to a lot of people still. We also attempted to cross the border, I think twice, and we got caught and then sent back to Mexico City. So we had to keep trying, and eventually we crossed at the Tijuana border.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have memories of that journey?
I don't have memories of that journey, but I always say that what happened next was, the hard part as well, because you come to the US and you're undocumented and you have to do, all this hard work. My mother worked as a cleaner. I would go and help her, but you have to grow up so fast. I went to school, elementary school, and I sort of learned English. Spanish was my first language. So because I knew English, I was all of a sudden filling out applications for my mother, and also this pressure to assimilate to the culture in the US was very heavy, when I was growing up in the 90s. And yeah, so it's everything that comes after that. I was labeled, for example, and the words were illegal alien. That kind of language tells you a lot.
Right. And now we say undocumented, but it's the same thing. And where in the US was your first home?
San Francisco.
In San Francisco.
Yeah.
And then you now have made another journey to England. And can we ask about that? Like how you ended up in England?
So I started dancing ballet, and I went to the UK on tour. I went to Scotland, to Edinburgh, and I was dancing in the arts festival there. And there I met my partner, who was studying sculpture in Scotland. And then a year later, we moved to London together.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. But you also mentioned that you had to actually give up your green card, right? So that's a very big decision for you.
Yeah, definitely. At one point, it just made sense to give up my permanent residence card, the green card, so that I can continue living in the UK. Because if I had come back with a sort of pending green card to the US, there was a possibility that I might get stopped at the border.
Right.
Yeah. So I had to give that up. And that was super hard because, my mother and I literally walked to the US.
Yeah.
Cleaned houses, did whatever we could to try and get this green card. They progressed, thank goodness, with their status as citizens. And I continued in the UK, and now I'm a British citizen. But it's hard because my whole family's here.
Exactly. And so do you come back and forth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whenever I can. Sometimes we meet in different countries. So, as I exhibit in different places, I invite them to the shows, and then we're able to meet in that place.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And you were just in Miami?
Yes, yeah. I was just in Miami. I was working with the Ep10 Art Museum. They acquired a work which is painted on a blanket. And we did an education project on the terrace where we hung blankets created by the public.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kind of a good segue to talk about the reason you're here in New York, perhaps.
Yes.
You're here at Kate's Ferry Projects here in the Lower East Side.
Yeah.
You're here working on a community-based and ongoing project that considers mapping immigrant stories and representation, correct?
Yes, I'm fascinated by how pre-Columbian civilizations used maps, which embody different forms of knowledge. Maps were also weaponized by colonizers, such as Spain's secret master map called Padrón Real. These practices still exist to this day. Maps and borders are one way that political and social inequalities are upheld. I started working in 2017 with a group of undocumented teenagers. Actually, they had just crossed the English Channel, and they had arrived to the UK, and they were by themselves, like children that had crossed by themselves. So we produced a series of paintings that mapped the journeys that they took. This formed the foundation for the project I'm doing here in New York, which is called Rutas. That means roots in Spanish. And the paintings aim to sort of record these undocumented journeys. This year, I also worked with people at Albergue Tochan, which is a hostel based in Mexico City. And it's kind of a sanctuary that helps migrants in Mexico City. They help with legal advice, medical advice. And I did a series of workshops there to sort of record the experiences of crossing illegal into Mexico. And that's something that I experienced myself. The participants also painted Rutas. I then presented these works, creating an installation which explored the precarity of these journeys. We were undocumented, and as a result, our journeys remain undocumented. So it's kind of trying to create a resource. I hope to then take the paintings that I make in New York City and publish them online so that teachers can access them, students can access them, to start having conversations and create visibility.
I was going to say, I love this idea of sort of making documentation of the undocumented journey. It's like we use the phrase like documentation, like as the accounting of the story, and sort of being undocumented, not having your papers in order, and so that's a really nice kind of connection. Yeah,
it's almost like subverting the power of that documentation, and also including like different forms of knowledge as well. When you say archive, I don't know what you think of, but immediately I used to think of maybe like, a very official building with like a file, but actually an archive can be something that's underneath someone's bed in a plastic bag.
Absolutely. And so many things that don't make it into the archive, like embodied memories and stories and narratives and maps and all of those things. And I always think about what's not in the archive.
Yes. And who's in charge of the archive.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think painting is a sort of very personal way to understand this experience. This project is very much about self-representation as opposed to an external representation of this crisis, which is often with numbers and statistics and negative stories.
I wanted to ask, in the Spanish, does root, because I think the beauty of calling it roots and roots is that you're building these roots, like literally the paths taken, but also the sense of like rooting.
Yes.
And so does that mean the same thing in Spanish? Does rutas have the same play?
Though I would say that the word is raíces, which means like roots. Yes, raíces. But I was thinking about that. So when I worked in Mexico City with the first group, before I met them, I've always felt like, being displaced, you're kind of like floating in limbo. But when I met this group, the thing that connected all of us was this experience. And actually, there's rootedness in that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And this idea of uprooting and rooting, I think, is really important. And a way of rooting them in their stories and their experiences and their representations.
Yes. And I think that's crucial. Being visible with this story creates connection. There's an interconnectedness in this project that involves all of the galleries, all of the charities that look after, this project, myself as the artist, the participants. That creates a network, that creates an entangled web.
Yeah, very interesting.
An entangled web of roots, and so that plants can grow like in a garden.
Yes.
Which is something that you talk about, El Jardin.
Yeah.
A garden where multiple species or plants, or multiple identities of people can not only exist but thrive simultaneously. And I was thinking about your path, fleeing the violence of war, and of course all these other people as well. And then, but you specifically being marginalized as an illegal alien, undocumented, and also being a gay man in the face of, a sort of not always accepting culture. And I'm amazed at your resilience and ability to thrive, like the multiple plant species in El Jardin. And it makes me think how you've taken on multiple identities, all embodying one person. And I thought about this with an old friend who said to me once, a long time ago, you look at the world and you don't like what you see. So you have three choices. Either you become a hermit, you become a crusader, or you become an artist. Can you tell us a little bit about how becoming an artist, helped you face this adversity?
Yes, definitely. Being an immigrant makes you think like an artist. You need to be extremely creative to navigate the structures that are put in place to exclude and control you. You need to survive. When I look at how my mom managed to provide for us, I see her constantly creating, challenging norms, and using different forms of knowledge. So in that sense, did I or my community ever become artists? Being from Central America, we possess different forms of knowledge. We have an appreciation for encounters with the material world and nature, which I would say is set within the identity of being an artist. So I think, being undocumented in this country, you have to improvise like a dancer. You have to make stuff up and hope it works.
Yeah. And it seems like it is working for you.
I don't know. Yeah. Art has agency, my work finds itself in the world.
Absolutely. And I think your work with community too really cements those ideas. And I guess that leads to my question about, do you feel like your work is moving more away from painting to more community and site-specific work? Because along with this current project at Kate's Ferry projects with Mixteca, I see one of your more recent projects is a project called Border Vessel.
Yeah.
And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that project.
Yes. So each aspect of my practice feeds into the other. I don't think I will ever move away from painting, but sometimes the thinking and research takes on other material forms, such as working with communities or a site specifically. Border Vessels was a piece that came to me in a dream. I felt compelled to make it, and I couldn't relax until I made it. I went to the Rio Grande, and I worked with two ceramicists, Mexican-American ceramicists, and there we dug the clay from the Rio Grande, and we made a gallon of water, which is a symbol, but also something that is carried across these borders. And whilst we were collecting the clay, people were actually crossing the river. And we made these vessels. I call them vessels because that kind of links to the body as well. And I took the ceramics back to El Salvador. So they kind of took a reverse journey. And there I worked with a local artisan who made the lids out of jade. And jade was a very important material for the Maya. They would bury people with jade in their mouth to aid them in the afterlife. We held a ceremony, an ancestral ceremony, to almost provide closure for the lives lost that physically make up this ceramic piece. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
And is that something that you will continue on, you think?
Yes, I mean, I try and sort of listen to, I don't know, there's like something greater than me sometimes. This idea came to me in a dream. And I think that there's something sort of powerful in that. I didn't sort of devise it or, so I'm listening to whatever happens.
But I think that also goes back to sort of what's not contained in the archive, like dreams or ideas that come to you, or like this sense of spirituality with plants or with the water, or all of those things that I think are really connected in your work.
Yes. Yeah. So, I mean, with this new work at Kate's Ferry projects with Mixteca, I'm going to Mixteca, which is in Brooklyn. It's an amazing organization that provides support for people that have recently come to the US. And we're doing the same thing. We're creating paintings that sort of shine a light on their stories. And who knows what will happen to these paintings. But I know that they will provide an in or an opportunity to be able to sort of have conversations about these stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
And I think that's what art does, creates an opportunity to have conversations. I mean, it does so many things, but that's something that's been important to international arrivals.
And I think for me too, it's about bringing something into visibility.
Yeah.
And that's really what I think art does, is it brings things that are often not spoken, not seen, into visibility.
Yes.
So I think that this project really does that too.
Yes. I think, visibility in institutions like museums is super important, but also it's about changing the structures as well. So, for example, the Ep10 Museum acquired a painting, but it was important that we did an education project that surrounded that to change, who actually came to see the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yes.
Yeah. But your work enables that to happen too.
I think that comes from being undocumented, because people, show up at your kitchen table and you have to give them a space to sleep for the night.
Right.
It's like a community thing. Sometimes people ask me, like, when did you become interested in engagement or community? And it's actually always been a part of my identity.
And your experience.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is is it like sometimes in opposition to the art world, which can be such a closed space.
Yes.
You once stated your work's about changing the narrative around migration. So in this ideal world that we dream about, from your dreams, what does that narrative look like?
I think for too long, migrants have been scapegoats. We've been vilified as dangerous intruders or invaders. Crossing a border and surviving these really dangerous journeys are huge acts of bravery and survival, but also of imagination. As many continue to die on their journeys, they're driven by the vision of a different future. Being an artist is an equally imaginative act and shares with these journeys across borders a sense of hope. Perhaps the narrative needs to be one of migration as an act of creativity and imagination against invented borders and walls set out to dehumanize and control us.
Well said.
I love
Yeah.
I love that. I love that vision and the imagination that goes on with it. Migration is definitely about imagination, whether it's finding a better life or finding an ideal life.
Yes.
Or, what are the hope and possibilities that you can create there?
Yes, because of you guys, I went to the Tenement Museum and I absolutely loved it. And I learned about a Jewish family and I learned about an Italian family that were here in the 1920s. And throughout the tour, I just kept thinking, this is my story. So it's kind of like always happening,
Yeah. Yeah, you just change out who.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, you're here in New York in the sort of, let's say, like the land of immigrants and, a city built on that. And also we have this history of Indigenous people.
Yes. Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us today. It was really lovely to hear you talk about your work.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor.
Absolutely. And if you want to find out more about Jose, better known as Studio Lenca, you can see his work at studiolenca.com, STUDIOLENCA. And the exhibition at Kate's Ferry Projects opens on January 5th, 2024.
Yay! Can't wait.
International Arrivals is a fiscally sponsored project of New York Foundation for the Arts. Your tax-deductible donations make this podcast possible. Please support us at internationalarrivals.org.
Welcome.
You have arrived at your destination.
Transmitting Alpinal Maze.